Hey. Welcome back. Episode 5. Quest for Valhalla. Paranormal Podcast. I'm your man, the Redbeard. Now you might be wondering, what could he possibly talk about this time? Well, you probably read the title. Hopefully, you can read. Haha. I know you can. Regardless, I know my friend Rebel can't. That's okay. I have a special topic today, which you already read the title. I want to talk about why we celebrate Halloween. I want to talk about where it came from and why the hell we do what we do. Some people just are raised and never know where it came from. It's just here. It's just a holiday, right? Well, let me educate you. Let me educate you. Okay? I can't get my iPad open. There we go. All right, we're ready. By the way, today's special guests are bagel avocado with egg. And my man Zero. Just to celebrate Halloween. Also, sporting the new sweater. That's what I'm talking about. Knowing that is not me. That is not an orangutan. That is Bigfoot himself. The Bigfoot. With a cowboy hat on. And I would hate to fail to mention my man Jameson's back. So, Halloween. All Hallows Eve. Where did it come from? Why do we do it? Why do I sound condescending? Why must I spit into bottles all the time? Well, I'll teach you. Now, a long time ago, when Christianity spread across the land, there was a group of people, and they were called pagans. It could be a derogatory term, could be hatred, could be, I don't know, belief in multiple gods, hate, all the above. A select few group. Well, at one point, it was the largest group of people in the entire world. And then along came the Roman Empire, Christianity, and it's all gone. But when you take over a civilization, or take over the traditions and the customs of a people, and you want them to obey your new law because you just conquered them, you have to give a little bit, right? Give and take relationship. If you want your occupation of their land to succeed. As terrible as that sounds, that's what happened. When the Celts originally ruled almost all of Europe and what is modern day United Kingdom, they practiced certain traditions and customs. And All Hallows Eve was one of them. And when they were conquered, and conquered again, and when they drove the snakes out, right? St. Patrick's Day. What did they do? In order to keep the peace amongst the Christians and the new people, the conquered, they had to allow them to still practice some of their traditions. And Halloween is one of them. And putting it plainly, it's pretty fucked up. We're going to conquer you, and we're going to make you believe in our religion, but we're going to let you keep a little bit of yours, just so you don't rebel. That's basically what they did. So, why do we carve pumpkins? Why do we wear costumes? What's the obsession with the dead? Creepy things. All things that are unholy. Why would they allow that? I'm not just talking about white culture in Europe. Other cultures, Mexico, they don't celebrate at the same time we do. Day of the Dead, right? There are days in other cultures where they where they celebrate the dead. They honor the dead. They feed the dead. So when America was colonized, right, came over with many of these traditions already. And I have an interesting article for you if you haven't fallen asleep yet. Save it till later. Let me have a sip, Jameson. Oh, it's so good. Grandpa's old cough medicine. It hits the tonsils with the burst of flame. It's perfect. Anyway, I have a great article that explains it all. And this comes directly from the government. So you know it's true, right? You know it's true. This comes straight out of the Library of Congress' blog. I didn't even know they had blogs. I mean, I guess that's where the federal nerds hang out. But I like this article. And it's posted by, I don't know if it's written by, but it's posted by Heather Thomas. I have no idea who she is. She posted it October 26th in 2021. So, let's just dive down into the meat and the potatoes. The down to the gravy, the broth of what Halloween is. And why we still haven't gotten rid of it. It's the one holiday where people can legitimately say it's not faked, like Christmas, like Santa Claus, or Thanksgiving, which is a whole nother topic. Don't get me started on that. Yeah, I'm spitting. So what? Grow up. Get over it. Be offended. I'm kidding. Be offended if you want. I don't care. So, listen. Carving pumpkins, trick-or-treating, and wearing scary costumes are some of the time-honored traditions of Halloween. Yet, the Halloween holiday has its roots in the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. It's a Gaelic word. I don't get it either. It's a pagan, there's that buzzword, pagan religious celebration to welcome the harvest at the end of summer, right? When people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope George III designated November 1st as a time to honor saints. See what they did there? Connect the dots. Right? You allow the pagans the day before, we get our day next. Some might say that is coexisting. I think it's forced. But that's just my honest opinion. Because I have a microphone and I get to say whatever I want. And spit into this ginormous bottle. So, continuing on. Soon after All Saints' Day came to incorporate some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before All Saints' Day, known as All Hallows' Eve, right? And later, Halloween. Here is a look at the origins and some of the classic Halloween traditions we know today. So why do we carve pumpkins? Because they're actually pretty fucking gross, man. They smell terrible. They rot. And they're messy, and if you've ever carved one with your kid, it's like it's a day you dread because you know they're going to get all nasty. But why do we do it? I'll tell you. A tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns originated in Ireland using turnips instead of pumpkins. That's even more gross. Wow. I lost my space. Oh, it is allegedly based on a legend about a man named Stingy Jack who repeatedly trapped the devil and only let him go on the condition that Jack would never go to hell. Oh, so he sold the soul to the devil. Awesome. But when Jack died, he learned that heaven did not want his soul either. So he was forced to wander the earth as a ghost for all eternity. The devil gave Jack a burning lump of coal and a carved out turnip to light his way. Locals eventually began carving scary faces into their own turnips to frighten away evil spirits. So it all ties into some kind of paranormal folklore, right? Which is great. It's right up my alley. So you're supposed to carve a jack-o'-lantern to ward off evil spirits, plural. But is it to ward off this guy named Jack? Well, what made Jack so special? Did he really This is already hitting me fast. Did he really capture the devil? Or what we think is the devil? I don't know. It is so good. Now that we know why we put up jack-o'-lanterns, and we do it in front of our houses, right? It's like a barrier. Create a barrier to ward off those spirits. Now, seeing ghosts, apparitions, whatever you want to call it now, the festival of Samhain marked the transition of the new year at the end of the harvest and beginning of winter. Celtic people believe that during the festival, spirits walk the earth. Later on, okay, pause there. It sounds a lot like the Wild Hunt. It sounds a lot like the Day of the Dead. All these other cultures that have no ties to each other somehow celebrate the same tradition. What do you think changed? I mean, I have thoughts on it. But how come we don't see the spirits? Does Halloween last more than one day? Well, I know it does. It lasts 31 days. All of October. Even though today it was 102 degrees where I live. That's so dumb. God. I'm over it. And you're wondering, why are you in a sweatshirt then? That's because I keep my house in the 60s. I love it. Look at me. I'm built for the cold. That's how I feel I look. Anyway, later on, Christian missionaries introduced All Souls Day on November 2nd, which perpetuated the idea of the living coming into contact with the dead around the same time of year. Now, it says Christian missionaries. It doesn't say what type, right? What type of Christian? And we know Catholics aren't Christian, so it didn't mention Catholics, even though the Pope was mentioned previously. So is is it a splinter of the Catholic Church that called themselves Christian but kept their traditions? It's hard to say. A lot of things to think about. So why do we wear scary costumes, right? And there's this funny old picture of people dressed up as, God, I don't even know what, man. Weird shit. Anyway, I can remember my first that I can remember at least costume. I was a Ninja Turtle, right? I was all Ninja Turtles, dude. Whew, hands down. And then I would do stuff like, like an undead or a zombie football player. Because I wanted to play football, and then I played football, and then I didn't celebrate. I didn't go trick or treating, I should say. All the way up. Well, I did all the way up till high school. I'll admit, because I went to a kindergarten through 8th grade elementary school, and they kind of treat you a lot differently. So, if anything, I was a little delayed. I didn't go to junior high school. I feel like that's when kids start to lose the interest. But I mean, then you're like, oh, this is free candy, man. Like, who the hell wouldn't want that, right? And then you become an adult, and I feel like it was my generation that really, really brought back, or not invented, but popularized adult Halloween parties where you actually dress up and shit. And the last one I dressed up as, I was a 80s dad. My son was like, it was his second Halloween. It was fun. I went to a thrift store and I bought an old Polaroid camera, and I caked on some sunscreen on my nose, and I had a Hawaiian shirt. It was when I was in the Army. And we did trunk or treats, right? We didn't do door-to-door shit. So you just walk around the parking lot. And my son was a deer hunter, and we strapped a stuffed animal deer onto his little cozy cube. It's pretty cute. He doesn't remember that, obviously. He's 9 now. I'm not sure what he's going to be for Halloween this year. I don't know. A lot of weird shit out there for kids to be. So why did they start? Good Lord, why did they start wearing costumes? In order to avoid being terrorized by evil spirits. So they put up a barrier of jack-o'-lanterns to deter the spirits. But if they're not stupid, if they're intelligent spirits and they get past the jack-o'-lanterns, the thought was wear scary costumes to trick them into believing that you were a ghost as well. That's smart. You know what that reminds me of? That movie 13 Ghosts. Remember that one? It was like the first time. I mean, there's nudity in that one, so don't watch it unless you're 18. But I remember that one scared the shit out of me. And they can only see the ghosts if they wore these special glasses. Look it up. That's a good one. The dude who played Monk from the TV show Monk. Monk. He was in that. And this guy, I'll break it down. Right. He got nothing better to do. So he figured out a way how to trap these ghosts into these rooms, and then I don't know if he was going to make like an amusement park out of it. I don't really fully remember the plot. But and it also reminds me of The Cabin in the Woods. That one's a lot different though. You could see all that shit. Anyway, yeah, I am starting to feel this alcohol. I might have had some before I started filming. So anyways, the Celts donned disguises in order to confuse the spirits and be left alone, like I said. So what does that have to do with trick-or-treating? Why the hell did we go door to door and say trick-or-treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat, all that shit? At least I did. I said that because I was a bad kid. There is so much debate around the origins of trick-or-treating, but generally there are 3 theories. Tres. The first theory suggests that during Saham, Celtic people would leave food out to appease the spirits traveling the earth at night. So it was a trifecta, right? Put out jack-o'-lanterns. Jack-o'-lanterns. They wore costumes to ward off if they got past the jack-o'-lanterns, and then they put out food to feed them, so they would completely, hopefully, ignore the people and not eat them. Were they cannibal spirits? Is that a thing? Could be. Anyway, moving on. Over time, people began to dress as these unearthly beings in exchange for similar offerings of food and drink. Mead. Oh, mead. Ale. Probably like bread and lamb chops or whatever they ate. Not turnips. Huh. The second theory speculates that the candy boon stems from the Scottish practice of guising, which is a secular version of souling during the Middle Ages. More on the Scottish people, because I am 26% Scottish. That's where I get my 2nd degree black belt in anger. During the Middle Ages, generally children and poor adults would collect food and money from local homes in return for prayers for the dead on All Souls Day. Geysers dropped the prayers in favor of non-religious practice with the inclusion of songs, jokes, and other tricks. So that's trick-or-treat theory. That one sounds more logical than... I mean, I guess they both would work. Yeah, I can see both of them working. But that sucks, man. Poor adults. So adults trick-or-treated then? Only the poor did. The rich were like, get out of here, you bum. All right. So let's hear this third theory. A third theory argues that modern American trick-or-treating stems from bell-snickling. The fuck is that? A German-American Christmas tradition where the children would dress in costume and then call on their neighbors to see if the adults would guess the identities of the disguised. In one version of the practice, the children were rewarded with food or other treats if no one could identify them. So that's a Germanic kind of... Well, it doesn't say, like... It says modern American. When is that time period? Because we are not modern anymore. We're advanced American. In a lot of ways. So I could see all 3 of these being somehow put in a bowl, mashed up, and capitalized on, you know? The great American candy companies were like, I mean, that's what they did with Santa Claus. He's an invention. At least modern day. Probably like, you're full of shit, Redbeard. Oh, yeah, most of the time. All right, so what's the significance of black cats and Halloween? That's a great question. The idea of being spooked by black cats, which I think they're rad. I mean, I don't. Some people are like, they want to cross their path. They're like, oh shit, that's bad luck or a bad omen or something. No, but it dates back to the Middle Ages again, when we were all stupid. When these dark felines were considered a symbol of the devil. Okay, that's why. It didn't help that centuries later, accused witches, boom, ties into Salem and all the other colonies. These witches were often found to have cats, particularly black cats. People began to believe that the cats were a witch's familiar supernatural entities that would assist in their practice of dark magic. And black cats and spookiness have been linked ever since. Well, that's the dumbest shit, dude. Were we that dumb back then? Right? Like, literally. Literally, you think somebody that's practicing witchcraft owns a black cat, so you just immediately associate it as being evil, part devilish. God, we were so close-minded back then. Oh, back to my story of the Scots. I don't know if many of you know, this was around the height of the Roman Empire. They had conquered all the way up to modern day Germany, all the way over, to the east, like where later the Ottomans and all those Arab nations would come out of, down into Africa. They pretty much conquered the known world, right? And as they were moving west, they started having difficulties. Some speculate that those difficulties were related to the Roman Empire being overstretched, right? Their territory was too vast. But they ran into a group of people called the Picts. The Picts. I can't enunciate. Now the Picts, jeez, words. I know them. When you see them, at least art depicting them, you would think of some kind of wild man, Highlander, Scottish, kilt-wearing guy from Braveheart. With paint on him. And that's actually how they got their name. Picts. Fuck me, man. It's you. It's your fault. You're watching me. I'm having a hard time. The Picts. There, I did it. Yay. They would paint their bodies with blue paint, or they also were believed to have tattoos, but there's no archaeological evidence that they knew how to tattoo. But it's a cool idea. And they would carve, they were definitely a pagan-like culture. And if you look at their territory, it goes way up into the highlands where the snow line is, and it's crazy. Like, it's barren. But they lived in these small villages that were spread out so far, and they were the masters of guerrilla warfare. The Romans that came through from the Roman Empire, right? I can stab you, and we're going to charge in with our horses and murder you. They could not defeat the Picts. They were just too good. They would do hit and run tactics. They wouldn't fight a traditional war. And it drove the Romans insane, to the point where they were the only territory that was not conquered by the Romans. So the Romans decided to build a giant wall to keep them out, because they were like savage men and women. They would show up to battle fully naked. Imagine being a Roman legionnaire or whatever, and you're this respected soldier, and you're ready to fight, ready to kill for your country. And then you have a bunch of crazy, red-headed, fair-skinned, naked men and women charging after you, flanking you, coming into your forts at night while you sleep. You couldn't even sleep, man, because you didn't know if they were going to come and kill you in your sleep. That's the kind of war they waged. And they beat one of the greatest militaries and the greatest civilizations ever. They're just a bunch of farmers, man. A bunch of hillbillies. Keep that in mind. So, what does that have to do with Halloween? Well, and the paranormal. After the fall of the Roman Empire, and then all the, Christianity spread, and then Britain developed, and then the Vikings came, and they mixed in with the Norwegian, the Danish, the Finnish, all the Vikings. They all kind of, and then they also, like my ancestors, they immigrated from Scotland to Ireland, and then from Ireland to America. So that's where all the traditions trickle down from. And you can find this tattoo on my face. It's called a triskele. And it is a very, very old symbol in the Celtic tribe, in the Picts, in Norse, in Druidism. And it is a beautiful symbol of life, of birth, life, and death. And it's a circle. It's always continuing. So some of those traditions, some of the art and some of the things that those civilizations stood for did make it. They did stand the test of time. And as, generation after generation grew up and migrated to where we are today, those traditions stayed, because it was just what you did. Nothing different, right? Hence, the witch hunts, hence black cats are viewed as creepy and scary and negative, and they're actually really cool. Some of the best cats out there, man. They're like honey badgers. They don't give a shit. Ooh, this next part's good. So you might ask yourself, why black and orange? Christmas is, it was mashed together with Yule, and some of the folklore with Yule was that, Odin would come from Asgard, and he would bring you gifts, and if you did all the right things. I'm paraphrasing here because I'm getting drunk, but he would come dressed in a red and white suit, kind of like Santa. And it was part of the folklore was that he had magical reindeers that could fly, like his shape-shifting, his mighty steed Sleipnir that could slip between realms. Think about it. Reindeer can fly. And there's a lot of reindeer in Norway, and this is actually made from. This has a bind rune on it. It is like a prayer to Odin for wisdom, and it is made from antlers of a reindeer, not the bones. God. I didn't go reindeer hunting. Because those, I mean, that's off limits, right? So, black and orange. The traditional Halloween colors of black and orange also trace back to the Celtic festival of Samhain. For the Celts, black represented death. The death of summer, which is great, while orange symbolized the autumn harvest. That makes sense. Shit, man. When you learn where things come from, you're like, oh, yeah. I never put two and two together with that. I just grew up stupid, man. That's because I'm a hillbilly. Bobbing for apples. Here's another one. I never understood this one, but let's find out. The game of bobbing for apples has been a staple at Halloween parties for many years. But its origins are more rooted in love and romance. Ooh. The game traces back to a courting ritual. That means dating. If you're not a nerd like me and know what courting means. That was part of a Roman festival honoring Pomona, the goddess of agriculture and abundance. See? Again, a conquering army assimilates old culture with new culture. And then it just stays in tradition. Assimilation. That's where we get all our holidays. Assimilation. While multiple versions exist, the gist was that young men and women would be able to predict their future relationships based on the game. When the Romans conquered the British Isles, just told you that before I read it. That means I knew it. In 43 AD, the Pomona Festival, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sounds right. I'm English. The Pomona Festival blended with the similarly timed Samhain, a precursor to Halloween. So they just overlapped everything, slapped it together, package it, boom, we got one holiday. And now, hundreds of years later, we have no clue why we do what we do. Because we stopped learning. Pranking, yes, pranking. Here we go. Playing pranks often varies by region. But the pre-Halloween tradition, known as Devil's Night, is credited to a different origin depending on the source. Meaning you have no idea where it's coming from. Some say that pranks started as part of May Day celebrations. But some, and eventually All Souls Day, also included good-natured mischief. When Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America, they brought with them traditions of celebrating Mischief Night as part of Halloween. Yes, you can thank my ancestors for that. Yep. Good old Irishman. All right, so that's good to know. I mean, I don't know what. Maybe I don't know why we would wait. I don't know why we waste toilet paper and shit. You know, like TPing a house or smashing the jack-o'-lanterns. That's kind of jacked. Some people spend a lot of time on that, so don't do that shit. And if you're gonna TP a house, you better come back and help clean it up. It's all fun and games until you have to clean toilet paper out of a tree, which is, if it rains, it's impossible. Lighting candles and bonfires. For much of early history of Halloween, towering bonfires were used to light the way for souls seeking the afterlife. These days, lighting candles are generally have replaced the large traditional blazes. I say we bring the blazes back. Bring back the bonfires. As long as you can do it without burning shit down, why not, man? Bonfires are fun. They're cool. Again, bunch of hillbillies. Hillbillies invented Halloween. All right. So, candy apples. Ooh. I can't eat those. Jack my teeth up. For centuries, people have been coating fruit in syrup as means of preservation. But during the Roman festival, Pomona, the goddess was often represented by and associated with apples. Her name derives from the Latin word for apple, pomum. I don't know. You got me. And the fruit is the heart of the festival's celebrations. It is believed that candy apples were invented accidentally in 1908 by William W. Kolb, a candy maker in Newark, New Jersey. As the story grows, Kolb was experimenting with red cinnamon candy to sell Christmas time to sell at Christmas time. God, I'm so dumb. And candy, and he dipped apples on a stick into a red glaze and put them on the shop window and to showcase his new candy. But instead of selling the candies, he ended up selling the apples to customers who thought they looked good enough to eat. I thought some people were dipping it in wax, which is fucking weird, but whatever. They became fashionable treats for Halloween starting in the early 1900s, and they remained popular up until the 1970s. Did they stop being popular? I see them everywhere. I see them like any time of year. Whatever. Oh, this one's a good one. Why are bats synonymous with Halloween? Let's find out. Bats were likely present at the earliest proto-Halloween celebrations. Not just symbolically, but literally. As part of Samhain, Celts lit large bonfires which attracted insects, which in turn attracted bats. Soon, spotting bats became connected with the festival. Medieval folklore expanded upon the eeriness of bats. I hate bats. With a number of superstitions built around the belief that bats were harbingers of death. And they are. You ever seen a bat, dude? I took my son gold panning in the middle of the day, and this freaking fruit bat came flying in, and it almost hit me like 3 times in the face, and then it landed on a wall, which is creepy, and then it climbed into a crack, and I was like, I hate bats, man. I'm not Batman, dude. And if you look also too at the investigation at Mormon Island Cemetery, there was like 15 bats that came out as soon as the sun went down, and all you can hear is their sounds. It's crazy, bro. All right, moving along. Devouring candy. Yeah, why not? The act of going door to door for handouts has long been part of Halloween revelries. But until the mid 20th century, the treats children received were not necessarily candy. The things like fruit, nuts, coins, and toys were also likely to be given out. So now, if I give you candy, you better be appreciative, because I could just give you fruit. I mean, there's still sugar in it, right? That's so dumb. Trick-or-treating rose in popularity in the 1950s and inspired candy companies to market small, individually wrapped candies. People began to favor the confections out of convenience. Yeah, we became lazy. But candy did not dominate at the exclusion of all other treats until the 1970s, when parents started fearing anything unwrapped. Yeah. Candy corn. keeping on the candy train here, man. Toot toot. A candy maker at the Wunderly. That sounds German. Candy company in Philadelphia, sometimes credited with inventing the tricolored candy in the 1880s. But candy corn did not become a widespread sensation until the Goelitz company brought the candy to the masses in 1898. Candy corn was originally called chicken feed. That's funny. And it sold boxes with the slogan, "Something worth crowing for." I like it because I like crows. Initially, it was just a candy because an autumn-related candy corns. Oh, wait. Did I skip? Oh, no, I didn't. Initially, it was just an autumnal candy because of corn's association with harvest time. Okay. Candy corn later became Halloween specific when trick-or-treating grew in popularity in the U.S. during the 1950s. It makes sense. And that is that. What are some other Halloween traditions that you enjoy? Share them in the comments. And nobody shared anything. So, if we take all the shit that I just put on your plate and you boil and you scrunch it up and you put it in a pot and you start boiling it and it turns into mush and then into broth, what does it tell you? It tells you, it gives you that sustenance of Halloween came from old belief systems. And it was a way to ward off evil. And it was a way to honor the dead. That's what it comes down to. And I could go on and on about all holidays, especially Easter and why there's the Easter bunny, right? Like, what does that have to do with the resurrection of Jesus? Well, there is an answer to that. And it's very similar to Halloween. But I love Halloween. I love everything I watch. It's time. I should actually start. I'm going to start watching the Saw movies, right? All of them. All 13. How many more there are? I know. And I'll probably watch the House of 1,000 Corpses. The other two suck, in my opinion. And I'll just work down the list. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm going to leave y'all with this thought. When you take your kid trick-or-treating, what does it mean to you? Is it more than just dressing up as a superhero or a villain or a zombie or whatever? Is it more than that? Or is it just a fun time to spend with your kids? Either way is a great answer because it brings out magic in your children like Christmas does, like Santa Claus does. It brings out togetherness, regardless of what religion it came from, regardless of what I told you, how it was, forced or allowed to be still worshipped or practiced by conquering nations. None of that matters anymore because it's a chance for, on Halloween, you might go and talk to a neighbor you've never talked to before, and that might spark a relationship. It might spark sorry about that. It might spark the opportunity to give. And who can say that that's bad? No one. And that was, when I was a kid, growing up in the sticks, we only went to like, we had to walk actually a few miles to get to town, and then I sound like a real fucking hillbilly. But then we trick or treat all night, in the actual neighborhood. But then because we lived where there was like 3 houses in a whole big radius, so I love Halloween, and it allows me to touch into that dark side that you have to keep pinned down 11 months out of the year. It's where we get to celebrate our craziness. And I have a crazy friend who's going to go all out, and that's Rebel. God, he's going to be nuts this year. But I'm going to do it with him. It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun with the kids, and it's going to be a great Halloween. And I hope you enjoy the show. I was going to talk about Bigfoot, but I already did. But he might be making a comeback too. Thanks for thanks for hanging out. Get yourself some Jameson. If you're also, if you live in the Carolinas or any of the Tennessee, any of those states that have been decimated by the hurricane, please know that there are people out here that care, whether the political shit, whether that matters or not. But know that there's only so much we can do too. There are people that will give their life to help you. And know that you at least are in my mind, in my heart. And I hope that you all will get the help that you need, because you might not have holidays this year. While I get to sit here and drink whiskey and talk about bullshit, y'all are out there in some of the worst conditions imaginable. So I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I care and I think about you, and I wish there was more I could do. I remember when Katrina happened, and I wanted to do stuff, but sometimes I can't. You just can't. We're all in this struggle ship together. We're all up Schitt's Creek together, and just know that there are people that aren't part of the narrative that the internet is and the media is painting. Okay? So, everyone be safe. I love y'all. Thanks for supporting the channel. And, yeah, seriously, thank you. You all make my day. And let me know in the comments if you have any special traditions that are different than the norm, that different than American Halloween, right? I'd love to learn. I'd love to hear about it. I don't care what it is. Drop a line. All right? Take care and keep scrolling.